Hey, this is a little bit early, about a couple minutes early. I really needed to check and see if this was going to work. I'm down at my shop and I don't have internet here. I run it off of a hotspot, so I needed to make sure that everything was set. So anyway, we'll get started, and I can't think of anything else to tell you before we get going. I don't want to miss anybody. And the most important thing I want to say is right now I can't read the messages from here because my phone is so tiny. But next week I'll have my iPad, and then I'll be able to see messages and answer questions. So that's another thing. I'm going to tell you that I'm planning on going live every Tuesday at 2 until further notice, but that's my plan for the next month or so, and I'll do a different project every Tuesday. This one will last about maybe 20 minutes. I don't want to keep you any longer than that. I have an hour on Instagram, but I surely don't want to take an hour up, and I don't think it'll take that long. Okay, so the project that I am going to show you how to make is the modern front hall coat rack. I don't know, those words, for some reason, that's hard for me to put those words together. Duh. So the reason and the purpose for this is I was visiting my son, and I took a bunch of furnishings out to him. One thing he mentioned was that he needed a little coat rack to hang on the wall in his front hallway. So I tucked that little nugget away, and I came back here and I thought, what can I use? Because I don't really like those plain pine pegboards. No offense if anybody has one, but I thought I could do a lot better by finding some old wood and creating a pegboard for him that I can ship out to him for Christmas. But you don't have to have some sort of unique, fabulous, like plank from a basketball floor or a bowling alley or what I'm going to show you. You can, I'll show you this at the end, some other things you can use. But so the two materials you really need are the base board that you're going to hang the pegs on, and you need something for pegs. So the other thing about the peg situation is I have these. These are what I always called my atomic legs, and I have a whole box of these. I used to sell them. And I thought that would be a great peg because it can hang like that, and he can put his coat on here or bags on there. So, but this is too big and clunky as it is. So this presents the project actually, is how to get this adapted so that it works as a peg. So I'll show you that, or I'll talk to you about that. And then the other thing was, what kind of board did I find? And I went over to a shelf in my shop, which has a lot of junk stashed away. OCD people would go crazy in here. I found this. And this is a piece of wood that I took apart from well, it was really kind of a nice floor loom that somebody gave to me. However, it was beyond repair. I had a specialist come out and look at it, and she said it was really beyond repair. So I disassembled it, and I got all of these wood pieces. It's nice maple, and I stacked them up over on my shelf back there, and I kind of remembered I had something that might work as the base, and look at that. I mean, is that perfect or what? And it already has these holes in it that he can mount that on the wall. So I decided I was going to use this, and I was going to use those legs. This is not that difficult to figure out, so I'll leave that for last. Let's talk about these peg legs. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is remove that bolt from there, because no matter how you figure out how you're going to cut that angle on there, you can't have a bolt in there. You might hit a blade, or it's just going to be in the way. So I take these toggle bolts, and these can be useful for other projects. So I'll save that. And now I've got my great little angled leg, but I need it cut to, actually, I will tell you, I cut these to 4 inches. If I did it again, I might have them at 3.5. I feel like that's a little bit long, but it's not going to hurt anything. So I needed to figure out how to get this angled cut you run into all sorts of issues. If you're not a seasoned woodworker, which I'm not, I'm just learning some of this, it's hard to cut this on a miter saw, electric miter saw, or even in this little miter box I just treated myself to from Lowe's that was all of 12 bucks, and it comes with a saw and the miter angles already in there. That's a handy little tool to learn manual. Well, actually, I think you should learn manual skills before you go to the power tools. But the other thing is, which you might have at home, is this old-timey looking miter box, which is really kind of great looking. And the person who owns this put a little piece of wood in here, because how likely would it be that you'd cut right through that box? Making a miter box out of wood was probably not the best idea. But anyway, so that might be something a friend or neighbor of yours has, or you can just go splurge and get one at Lowe's. The other option which I used was I asked a friend who has a shop, and her husband has a shop, and I asked her if he could cut these legs on a bandsaw for me. And it turned out that he didn't end up using the bandsaw, although that does work really well, but he used a compound miter saw. And I wasn't there watching it, but I did see a video of it, and it was pretty great. And that'll be a whole other lesson, not for today. But what I ended up with were 3 perfect little pegs that I can attach to the board that I'm using. See, I thought I had something else I wanted to say. Okay, so that's that. Oh, I know, another friend's husband gave me an entire lesson in the bandsaw and the compound miter saw in his shop. So I was really grateful for that too, because then I got a feel for what the dangers were and what the safety issues were if I'm going to teach anybody how to do this. So if you are not an electric power tool person, you have to be sure and get all the background on safety. Otherwise, it's too risky. Okay, so those are the materials that we're going to work with. All right. Now the tools, other than the miter situation, you need a drill, you need some bits, and you need the little chuck that goes in here. And I love this. I'm not promoting this drill, but I love this little DeWalt drill because these bits just plug in. It used to be, and on some of the drills with cords, you need that chuck that unscrews that, and then that pops out. You never can find the chuck for that, but this thing just pops right in. Really, really handy. In fact, I'm also going to send my son a drill for Christmas, so I hope he doesn't see this video. Okay, so you need that, and then you need some screws. Now, I'm going to fess up. I like to use, people are going to blast me for this. I like to use drywall screws when I'm working with furniture and wood, which I know is not right, but it goes in so much easier, although I do think that they don't have the strength that a general wood screw does. But I have both kinds here, and for this demo purpose, I'm going to show you the drywall screw, but I would say if you're going to be building something yourself, you want to use a wood screw. I've got 1.5 inch and I've got 1 5/8 inch. Either one will work. So I'm going to set those over here. And then to clean up this wood, I took the steel wool and some wood cleaner, and I just scrubbed it down, and then I came back with a clean cloth and put some Danish oil on it. And I feel like with this piece that's, just absolutely reclaimed, it's great, it's fine. It doesn't need to be perfect. So get that out of the way, that and that. All right. So now that you have I'm going to be going back and forth. There's just no two ways about it. When you have this done, give it a little sanding, and then we need to get that screw that goes in the top there, all right? The trick to this is, and I did it on one of these I'm going to show you, I drilled through and it popped through the back side. So this is something that I tried, and it worked for the other ones, but one of them it did pop through. So I went ahead and took one of the smaller bits to start with, and I held this down on the bottom surface. I held it really tight, and I tried to not have my fingers back here in case I do come through. I don't want to drill through my fingernail. So I went ahead and held that tight. Then I just, beforehand, I penciled in what looked like center was, and then I just came in and drilled down just a little bit. You can also, which I learned in my friend's husband's shop, mark your bit with a little black marker on how deep you want it to go so you don't go too far down. All right, so now I've got the little hole drilled in here, and then I just put a couple coats of paint on it, and if you want to wait and seal it, that's fine too. I didn't have time to seal this, but I will before I send it to him. All right, so those are done. And now, the next thing is, this is an odd shaped piece of wood, which makes it what it is. I like it like this. The one thing I needed to figure out was whether I wanted to have it lined up and level straight through the middle, or I wanted to have it so it angled down like that. Well, the truth is it's not completely flat on the bottom. It rocks a little bit. So I decided that he's gonna hang this, and it's gonna be, the center is gonna be level straight across. So all I did was measure and mark center, and then I came out, I think that's about, well, I'll tell you how far that is. I think it is about 8 inches. Yes. So then I drilled straight through 8 inches apart. Beautiful. And I used a little bit bigger drill bit on that. Oh, here's something you might want to know. So I am really bad with numbers, bad. I looked up how to tell which bit to use with which screws. And again, most of you probably already know this, but I learned something new. So what I found out was, if you hold your drill bit up in front of your screw, all you should be able to see are the threads of the screw on either side of that bit, because that will, as you know, that will grab a hold of the wood on the sides, and then you know you've got the right size bit. Now that makes sense to me, but if you throw a bunch of numbers out there, I am not gonna remember them. So I used a little bit bigger bit, and I drilled straight through. Oh, and I have this scrap piece of wood here on top of my tables. I don't really need to do all 3 of these because I've already drilled them. Fabulous. Okay, now the next step is to do the countersinking. You don't want those screws to scratch up his plaster wall out there in DC. So in order to do the countersinking, I take a bigger bit that is just a little bit larger than the head of the screw I'm going to be using, because I want to make a little crater right at the top so that screw just drops down inside of there and it will not touch the wall. It's sunken in, okay? Words escape me sometimes. Okay, so that's a 3/8. Wait, what is that bit? That's a big bit. Hang on a second. I'm going to tell you what that is. Yeah, that's 3/8. So you don't want to go too far down, because then your screw head will go way farther, and it may end up coming out too far on the other side of when you put the leg on there. So I just want to make a tiny little gully. Oh, here, I've done 2, but okay, so I've done 2 right here and here, and now I'm just going to do that one. There we go. So I'm not sure you can see that, but it's like a nice little hole in there. Get that there. All right, so look, I'm ready. Let's put this together, and then I'm going to show you some materials that you might be able to find if you don't have a piece of loom sitting around your house. I've got the legs, and I've got my incorrect drywall screws. So I'm going to go ahead and put this through. Whoops, that drops way into there easily. That's okay. So what I'm going to want to do is pull that back a little bit and get it started on here. hope you can see that. Here, get that started, and then I'm just gonna, whoops, hold that leg as tight as you can at the angle you want it. And there's your first peg. So easy, okay? Now I think that one, no, those holes are all a little bit big. Okay, so again, I would, if I had an assistant here, I would shift this camera so you were right on top of this, but I think you can get the gist of it. Two down. Those of you who know me, I love finding pieces that I can create stuff out of. I don't know, it's like the biggest challenge, but yet the greatest reward too. It's just the tools, it's just learning how to use the tools. Okay, that one's spun a little bit. I'll probably, well, you know what, let me use that wood screw in there just to see if that's better. Now I can't tell, I'll have to adjust that when I look at it from the front, but that will be his coat rack. Oh, I totally missed a very important part, I think, and it was marking the halfway point so that he will be able to level the center of this when he hangs it. And actually what he could do is set the level on top of those legs if I'm that exact. I may not be that exact, but anyway, that is that. I love it. I think it will be perfect for that. Okay, now the next thing I want to tell you is you don't need to find tapered legs. Like, you don't need new legs, although I will show you some of the stuff that I used in the past. And these are kind of furniture leggy, but look at this. I used to just go drive to Goodwill and pick up pieces of furniture, buy them, grab the legs, and drive around and dump off the furniture again, if they were solid wood. So you could easily cut this at an angle, cut that off at an angle, sand that down, use that as a hook. I have all of these different pieces that have come from furniture. These are those cheapy little things from Lowe's, and they have the metal cap on the end. I took the cap off of there. I don't know what I was using that for, but you could leave the cap on, or you can take it off. You can sand this down. You can angle that and then angle that. You could paint that little end a different color, and you can use that as your hook. And you create, from these plain tapered legs, you can create this type of a leg. See, that doesn't work as a leg at an angle without being cut. All right, that's going into cutting that I'll do another time. Okay, so those are some pieces. Now, let's say you don't have those angled pieces. You don't want to go look for them. You know what you can use? You can go buy a 1-inch dowel at Lowe's and start cutting those angles at 3 inches. 3-inch works really nicely with those. Then I had another idea. You can have your pegs here. You can do all sorts of design on those pegs if you want. You could do a wood burner, you can do painting, you could wrap fabric and do a collage on there. You can do anything, anything. If you know what kind of materials you need, and if you know basically the tools and supplies, you can just like have at it, and there is no mistake, all right? All right, so let me show you, oh, I know, wait, I have one more thing. Here are some other pieces of flat wood. Okay, this was an old furniture leg I had. That would make not too shabby of a rack right there, just really clean and small like that. That would work. This is a piece of oak, I think it's trim, floor trim or baseboard trim. That would work easily, beautifully. It's a little bit hard to drill into. And then this is kind of a cheapy piece. I mean, if you wanted to do a few trials, this is like a cedar siding piece, which is torqued a tad bit, but it's not bad for a run through. So there's these things all over the place. Then here's one more thing I found this morning that you could use if you found an old mop handle or an old broom handle. This is an old mop handle. This could be your sliced up pegs. When you give it the angle, it gives it a whole different look. It gives it a little bit more of a purposeful look as a coat rack. So I thought that was pretty nice, although I don't know if I would want to wreck that, because look at that old mop, that's cool. Okay, and now you have no old materials. You need to go buy all brand new materials to make your coat rack. Lowe's, little board, probably a 1x3. The dowels, 1 inch. Then what I did was I took a black belt that I had bought at Goodwill, and they used to sell these new cheapy belts. And I cut it off, and I used contact cement to adhere it. But before I did the contact cement, I drilled through the board where the hooks were gonna go. And then I also drilled and did a countersinking for the end screws to mount. And then I put the contact cement on here and put those pegs on top of that. That actually matches the bench I made him, but I don't want him to be too matchy-matchy on that. And another thing I did, which I don't know whether you would want to go to this trouble or not, but on this little belt I have, I went ahead and took it to the sewing machine and did a little stitch around both sides just to give it a little detail against that natural wood. I thought that looked kind of sharp. So there, that's another kind of wall rack that is inexpensive, really fun to make. And remember, you can always go buy something cheaper probably, but there is just there are no words for how much fun it is to create something like this, give it to somebody, and if you're lucky, they like it. And they're thrilled that you gave them that handmade item. So I love this, and I hope he loves it. If he doesn't love it, I don't know what to tell you. So I want to tell you that I will be on here every Tuesday at 2. I'll be doing all sorts of different projects. I do a lot more than upholstering, so I've got to bring out some of my other skills and show you. But right now I'm kind of focused on using tools and teaching tools. I just think that opens up a whole other world. And if you go to my website, thehomeroomshop.com, and sign up for my email up at the top, there's a little freebie for you there that is a tutorial on a blue velvet chair. And that is what I give to you for signing up for my emails. And I don't inundate you with emails. I just let you know some great tips and techniques and anything that's going on here in the shop, because I do teach live here. I haven't had many live classes for a few months, but I do 3-day boot camps. And the last boot camp I had was in the middle of COVID, or maybe not that, maybe it was in October. And I only had 3 people in here, and we were able to spread out, and it was fine. I'll be scheduling another boot camp for January or February. And then I have online classes on my website, and I think that's everything. So I hope you'll come back on Tuesday, and I'll have more projects for you. Again, I am so sorry that I can't read what you're saying on there because it's just too far away, if anybody had any questions. But my iPad does work, and so I'm gonna get a holder for it and get it clamped up there so I can read from here. It's just too hard for me to see it from here. And then this, when I turn this off, this will let me save this video, and I will put it on my IGTV so you can rewatch it. I hope I didn't go too fast, but I didn't want to take up too much of your time, and I just really wanted to show you how easy it is to create furnishings that don't look homemade, but they look handmade. Somebody told me years ago not to say homemade. It just sounded too kind of, I don't know what the right word is. not quality. I don't know if that's right, but handmade just sounds a little bit better, more craftsmanship. So that's all I have for you today. And gosh, I wish I could save all your names on there to see who was here. But you can definitely email me or message me on my website. I'll try to check those. And I think that's it. Oh, I keep saying that. One more thing. I might go ahead and just write up the instructions for this and put it under like a latest blog post. So if you wanted to refer back to how to make one of these, you'll have everything written down, probably way more thorough than I yammered on about, okay? Have a great Tuesday. Now I'm gonna sneak around and turn this off.